Hello, hello, all you wonderful people. Sigma Chris here coming to you. I'm gonna do my first reaction video. This is actually a video that popped up in my feed. I watch a lot of YouTube. I don't know about you all, but I've, over the last couple of years, really dropped down substantially any type of television that I watch. I barely watch a handful of shows on Netflix or Hulu or whatever streaming platform, and it's only when I really only, if I have a couple hours to kill where I'm not doing something, or I just feel like just kind of chilling out that day. But I normally usually don't watch TV. Um, it's just not entertaining. There's nothing I get out of it anymore, and I'm of the mindset that if I really don't get something out of it, then I don't need to spend or waste my time on it. And just how the ideology of television has become. But anyway, with that, I was thinking about just how mainstream media in general has just completely shifted, and just a completely crazy mindset, and everybody online praises these new shows like they're awesome, and I've watched bits and pieces of them and they really suck. Um, but that's the way it is. The masses just I wish sometimes that I was as blissfully unaware of life and real world problems. But anyway, I digress like always. So this actually popped up in my feed. It said life lessons from 100-year-olds. Because the title had life regrets. And I think it's a pretty appropriate title for, as we get older, we start looking back on our lives as, what could I have done better? What could I have changed? Should I have not been friends with this person? Should I have taken that career choice? Or should I have finished that degree? Or should I have married this person? Or whatever, whatever you didn't pull the trigger on, or whatever you didn't spend more time doing. I'm venturing to guess that one of these life lessons is that spend more time with your family and loved ones, especially your children. But we'll get into it, and I'm hoping to learn something today, because I truly value the elderly, the more experienced people in life, because they truly hold a lot of value and have a lot of life lessons like this video is about to show us. And there's a lot that you can take away from their stories and take away from their experiences. So with that, we'll jump right into it.
I think I've done all that I wanted to do. As long as I can be helpful and keep going, that's the main thing. My name is Clifford, but call me Cliff Crozier, and I was born on 6th of September,
Wow.
1915. Makes me
What is
now
this video?
101.
So this would have been back in 2014.
I was born in Birkenhead, in the Wirral, Cheshire.
Yes, I like that.
Apart from the war and the time I was at college, I've been all there all my life.
Wow, he's moving around really good for 101.
I've been retired now for 38 years. It always pleases me, though, that I keep robbing the government, really, of my pension.
It's your money anyway, sir. You deserve it.
It's just that you keep going. It's only a number. 101 is only a number. And you live for the day. A spot of whiskey occasionally helps. Although it's not on the national health.
Yeah. But a COVID shot is. Anyway, what's this ad? Get this crap off of here. He probably hasn't had a COVID shot.
I have so many fond memories.
If this lovely gentleman is still alive, I guarantee you he's not taking a shot.
Sometimes sit down in my chair and I think back, and I try to sort of reorganize this story about these people that I have got in my mind, and mix them up together first and then pair them And I think there are quite a few people out there that would be very, very happy to be together because they are such lovely people that they are. Emilia Teresa Harper. Teresa. It's Teresa because it's Czechoslovakian.
Wow.
103, my goodness
103.
me. 3 is my lucky number. I have always been lucky. I've never been unlucky, touch wood. Oh, there's wood underneath there. I was in Czechoslovakia when
That's amazing. Especially today. I hope that we all live long and healthy, but you know, I forget what the average age is of death now. The average lifespan. I want to say it's in this late 60s, early 70s, something like that. Somebody can absolutely correct me on that, but that's amazing that people can live 100 years old, 103 years old. That's fantastic. I would just like to know. I guess whiskey is the elixir, so that's, hey, props to that. I'm all for that.
when I when I was a young girl, and I was living with my grandparents because my father was a prisoner of war.
Wow.
We came over to England to be with our father when he was released from the war. Everything makes me happy. I love talking to people. I like doing things. I like going out shopping. Once I go out shopping, I don't want to come back. I don't think there is anything that I really need to do because I've done practically everything that I ever wanted to do in the past. I've got beautiful memories, you know. I can live happily forever after because of my lovely memories.
Hmm.
Do you know Sri Lanka? I climbed up the tower there, Sirigura, which is 600 feet up to the top. I've always been fond of the water, and I did a lot
That's
of
pretty.
yachting when I was young as well, another part of my misspent youth. My name is John Dennerly. I'm 102 and a half.
It looks really good. All
I
these
was
people look
born
really
at an
good
early
for
age, before
100.
World War
That's
One,
insane.
in
Look better than a lot of
Denton,
60-year-olds.
I've had a relatively easy life, even with
Love
the
the fashion.
RAF
Love it.
5 years
Rocky,
of
Grandpa.
war. It was an adventure more than a penalty, even amongst the bombs. But I wasted a lot of time, my childhood, entertainment, that sort of thing. Even staying up till sometimes right through from midnight right through to breakfast time, and Mother would come down in the morning and say, "Haven't you been to bed, John?" And I'd say, "No, I've been listening to the Schenectady, New York on the radio with the jazz band."
Hold up. Ah, no. Why?
Look, did you know there
Did
was
you
a
know?
government-funded education grant
I
that
didn't
could
know that,
deposit?
sir. Let me get back to the 100-year-olds here. Look at that.
I enjoyed it. And then sort of settled down once I became a pharmacist.
All right, that's pretty cool. We don't
I
have
don't
stuff like
feel
that.
any older than I was, 20, 30 years ago,
I need a mustache. Like that.
except with my limitations.
I don't feel 29, but say 79, 69, 79.
I'm not going yet. I'm still strong. I'm very, very strong. I've never realized how strong I am. It's all the
I guess it's a mindset. That's awesome. I'm like really happy that I'm watching this because especially that first gentleman, he was like, you live for the day. And I think that that's the trick. I have relatives that are getting close to 80, and that seems to be the trick, is that they always have something to look forward to for the day. You just keep your mind busy, you keep your body busy, and you just don't lay around and wither away, because unfortunately it's still a hard thing to come to grips with, even sometimes for me. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and think about it like, man, I'm gonna die one day. And it motivates me. But this is awesome.
The food that my mother cooked and first of all grew in the garden.
I make my own bread by hand. I'll probably be making some today.
That's my online. Tesco's coming tomorrow.
Oh man, it's rocking the tablet. And some of y'all are 20 something, 30 something years old, and you're like, I can't operate technology. You got no excuse now.
We always had fresh food when we were youngsters. Always. Straight from the garden.
That's another thing too. All the GMO and all the modified food and all the, replacement stuff that we're eating these days is just totally unhealthy, and I'm guilty of it too.
Into the pan and onto the plate.
Skimmed milk, kitchen towels.
6 ounces of flour, 2 ounces of sugar, and 6 ounces of
Butter.
butter.
Apples or gooseberries, lots of gooseberries.
Shepherd's pie.
I don't have many failures. If I'm making a cake and it fails, it becomes a pudding.
Oh, my marriage was absolutely wonderful, heavenly, heavenly, heavenly. I lived with him from the age of 16 until he died at I think it was over 70. I wanted to marry a handsome man and a man with good manners, and I had both.
We did have problems, but we got through them. And I think nowadays people give up too easily.
I'm always optimistic.
So, a couple things, especially from that lady, that they were married practically. If they got married at 16, I don't think she said that, but they were together over 50 years. Because if she was 16 when they were together, I'm assuming he was around the same age. But if he was around 70 when he passed, that's right about 50 years. Or actually more than that. It's 54. Yeah. So, how many people give up after 54 days in marriage, right? By no means am I a saint of a husband. My wife and I actually just celebrated our 10-year anniversary being married. We got married very young, and I think there's pros and cons to being married so young. Unless both partners have the capacity to grow and develop as a union in marriage as opposed to different entities, I think there's a lot of more successful marriages that way. And it was more a lot of hesitation and reservation and flaws, quite frankly, on my side, that there's been flaws on both sides. But what I'm getting at is that while there are bumps in the road, if you have that unity and that union of marriage and a partnership with the right person, marriage is a fantastic thing. My wife and I both respect what we bring to the table. She's a woman, I'm a man. There's certain elements of a relationship that I'm just naturally embedded with to bring to the table, and there's certain natural things that she brings to the relationship as a woman. And what's great is that when you're younger and you marry, there's still a lot of development as who you are as a person. And I'm all about self-development. And you have to have that ability to overcome insecurities, overcome jealousy. I'm not a very jealous person, and I'm not a very insecure person when it comes to relationships, because as I get older, I realize my friend group went from this to this. And it should be that way, because I have a lot of acquaintances. I have very few friends, because I only trust a certain number of people with certain information or certain details of my life, or I only allow them certain access into my life. And that's not because they're bad people. It's just, it's who I am as a person. And I don't have insecurities or jealousies when it comes to friendships or my marriage. I have always been of the mindset, look, you're either with me or you're not. Either way, I'm still going to make it work. And I think not having a mindset of being overly clingy, but just kind of going with it and like, look, if you want to go out and cheat, you're going to go out and cheat. It's going to come to the light, whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's awesome that she spoke on that. I had another point, I'm sure. That's awesome that you see. It's mostly, and I've noticed that it's a generational thing. I think people around my age bracket are getting, they've either been married 3 times by this point or they haven't been married at all. There's not a whole lot of consistency with relationships. And now I do know people that were high school sweethearts and they got married and they're still together. That's awesome. But I see a lot more of either you're on this side where you're not married, don't have any kids, and it's all personal choice. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just an observation. Or I know people around my age that have been married 3 times by now and they've probably got 3 or 4 different baby daddies. So I would love to know where there's no single answer as to why that is the way it is, or why society and expectations of people were to get married once, you stay together forever. I don't know.
And she was always pessimistic, so we got on very well together.
Make the most of it, because especially if it's the first love, there's nothing like it.
That's pretty.
When I had my first children, I had twins, but unfortunately I lost the twins, and that was the most tragic moment in my life. But I had a daughter, and I enjoyed her company very much indeed, loved her immensely. When I lost my first baby, it was one of the twins went. I was devastated. Eventually, of course, you get used to it, because life goes on regardless. You get healed, and what you never forget. So, it's really wonderful to have something left behind, even if they are no longer here. They're there. They're in your mind. They're in your air, all around you. It's really a wonderful, wonderful feeling. I think a lot of my children, even today, after all these years. I can still sit here and I can talk to them, and as if they were still alive. When people pass this way and they hear me talking to myself, they think I'm crackers. But I'm not crackers. I'm only just thinking about my children.
Sorry, guys. That was a great lesson.
Welcome to a community where we...
Children, I have one child, and it's beyond a blessing. Beyond a blessing. And, my daughter had some complications at birth. She was born 10 weeks early. She was about this big when she was born, 2 pounds, 7 ounces. And she's a little miracle. She's fine, has no developmental problems, no physical problems, nothing like that. That's why it irks me when I don't even need to get into the whole A-word thing. how people could squander such a gift where people like this lovely lady lose their children, or, people, unfortunately, just due to biology, they just don't have the capability of having children.
Any regrets? None. None whatever. I can tell you right from my heart.
Wow.
None whatever.
If I'd have been more attentive at school in my early life, I'd have studied more and harder. And although I didn't do too bad in the end. So. But I think the sooner you start studying, the better.
I was ill at college, and my father came to collect me, and I didn't want to go back with him. I wanted to stay at the college with the friends for a short time, and I always regretted that my dad had made the journey, and I hadn't taken it up. His offer to take me back. I didn't do the right thing by my father. That's the thing, because I admired him very much. I never said anything.
That statement shows two things. Shows the ignorance of youth, and it shows the strength of fatherhood, I think. He didn't go into too much more detail, but when you're young, you say things, you do things that you don't think will have a consequence, or something that won't have any long-term effects. The things you say to your parents, the things you say to your relatives or your friends. But he must have a complete admiration for his father, the way that he said that. And the strength of his father is probably just one. His father probably, and I'm just assuming here, his father probably didn't even think that much of it. He's just thinking, he's just young college kid, And it probably didn't stick with him. He just kept moving on because it's fatherhood, right? You just keep moving. But that sticks out to me, how that singular event is the regret that gets brought to his mind as soon as he's asked the question. Because to him, he's probably thinking that, again, he said it, he didn't do right by his father. But that must mean he has such a love for his father that he feels like he really let him down. And there's probably a whole lot to unpack there with men and their need for appreciation and recognition of their father, and needing the love and the admiration from the son to the father. That's a whole different conversation, but that was interesting. My man's getting it. Going to the beach, going for a walk in the park.
You've got to keep up with the times. So what was good in sort of 80, 90 years ago doesn't work these days.
Communicate, speak with your parents, and take their advice too.
See?
Or at least consider it. You don't always have to follow it, but certainly don't throw it out of the window.
I think in general that advice is good. Some people have bad parents. Some people have bad relatives, bad friends. But you should always listen. I think in general we all need to listen more. Now, we can take advice. We could choose to follow the advice. We should always consider the source whenever we take advice. I know I've said some things over the last couple of months starting up Sigma Chris podcast where people are praising what I do for speaking out against certain things, and some people will speak rather rudely, or they think they're being clever and they want to screenshot a post of mine and post it on their stuff and try to make fun of me when they're really just kind of proving my point. But I digress. But I think in general we should all listen more. So that's great advice.
I recommend anybody, if they find the right husband, to marry. Not just live together, marry. Be closer and closer. It seems to me as if you are happily married and happily living, that is the finest remedy for all ills, because everything is in perfect harmony.
I'd love to just go visit this place. It looks beautiful. Wow.
Time spent on reconnaissance is seldom wasted, and be as independent as you can, but don't be reluctant to ask for help when you think you need it.
That's... Whew. That one actually... He's speaking to me on that one. Thank you there, sir, Mr. Cliff. I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm very stubborn and hard-headed when it comes to certain things. Sometimes I'm too independent for my own good, where I should just ask for help or ask for advice or things like that. And sometimes it could be a detriment. So I'm sure we could all learn something from that statement. That was good.
Good idea is to behave well to other people, show them respect, and help them as much as you possibly can, and it will be repaid hundredfolds.
My motto.
That's great. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I think it comes back to more listening and more empathy. Help out people as much as you can. And be patient as you can with people. That's another tough one, especially today with so much instant gratification. We don't just let things... And this is something that I am trying to work on, and I'm trying to get better at it, is I don't instantly react. Not everything deserves a response. Sometimes you just let it sit there and brew, sleep on it. Don't let it manifest in your everyday actions, because if you let something that you hear and you interpret, because somebody told me something great, it's not always what you say, it's how the other person hears it. And what I mean by that is you could be trying to be peppy and helpful and optimistic about something, but because of the mental state that the person is in or their emotional state, they may hear something completely different and think you're being antagonistic. Show them respect. That was the other big one. We don't really level with people that much anymore. We're so divided in ideology and philosophy and just common sense in some ways. We're so split and divided, where you're either over here on this team or you're over here on this team, and there's no common ground. Again, this is why context gets so lost in a conversation online versus having a face-to-face conversation. That's why another big reason why I think we're going to see a lot of social and developmental problems, especially in young children, as we move forward, if we continue to ask them to mask up and be separated from their peers. We're going to have a bunch of sociopaths running around, but that's a different conversation for another day. But you see it taking place. You see it taking place where people don't even want to have a face-to-face conversation anymore because, number one, it gives them there's no safe space for them to be called out on their stuff. And I'm not saying just people in general, myself included. And number two, we're starting to, and I've noticed it with myself. I give a lot of presentations online. When I get in front of a crowd, it takes me a minute or two to present in a certain way and conduct myself in a certain way because I'm so acclimated to sitting in this chair, presenting everything on a screen and not being face to face. Even though there's cameras on and people are looking at each other, when you're in a room, there's a lot of social cues. There's a lot of this is just a skill set of mine. I know how to read a room very well, and I know what the audience is thinking, and I know what the feeling and the vibe is. You don't get that a whole lot of times because people are sitting in their chair, they're comfortable, they're in their own comfortable surroundings, and 9 times out of 10 they don't want to be there anyway. So, yeah, if we can get past all this crap, I think people need to show more respect to each other, and we need to listen more.
And help them as much as you possibly can.
Be
and
empathetic.
it will be repaid hundredfold.
My motto for life, there was an old Scottish comedian, Sir Harry Lauder, who used to sing, "Keep right on to the end of the road." And that's my motto. Keep right on to the end of the road. Keep right on to the end. Though the way be long, let your heart be strong. Keep right on round the bend. Where all you love and you dreaming of will be there.
So pretty. Huge tip for a strong
The
relationship.
longer I stay, the more noisy I shall get.
I'm staying put.
Man said he ain't going anywhere. Guys, thank y'all so much for watching. I think that was a great video to watch. It was back in 2016. So, it's 23 million views. I learned a lot. I hope y'all did too. Thank y'all for chiming in. If you like stuff like this, more reaction type of videos, let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, all that good stuff. And I hope you guys have a great day. I really do. Thank you.